This year's E3 conferences are on the books, and while we here at LTRT had a field day poking fun at them, there's genuinely a lot to break down from this year's show. E3 2018 didn't just give us a glimpse at what to expect from games this fall, but also a look at the next few years of the gaming industry as a whole. So what were the big takeaways this year? Here are 5 things we learned from E3 2018. Number 1, Xbox is back with a vengeance. This console cycle has been kind of rough for Microsoft. While the 360 dominated, the Xbox One lost out to the PlayStation 4, while Nintendo has once again kind of settled into their own successful niche. Xbox was starting to look like a console that only had Halo and Gears of War to its name, but this year, Microsoft's conference looked to completely flip this narrative. While those franchises did bookend the show, Microsoft showed off 50 games, including a slew of new exclusives and renewed third-party support in games like Kingdom Hearts 3. Even crazier though, they announced the acquisition of 5 studios, showing fans that they're serious about this overhaul. Now, was it enough to save the one? Probably not, but it did reposition Microsoft as a major player in the modern Big Three, giving them the strongest conference of the show. Meanwhile, number 2, Nintendo's momentum might be slowing. Okay, the Switch's debut year was absolutely bonkers, with Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey making it a must-have system right off the bat. But things have been quiet since Mario, and this year Nintendo had to prove that they had a long-term plan for the Switch. Were they successful in this? Well, honestly, it's up for debate. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was always going to make headlines, and Nintendo focused on it a lot. But we got very, very little outside of that. Sure, we've got a Pokemon game coming this year, which should be gigantic, and Mario Party could be a hit, and okay, the Fortnite day of release thing was a pretty good big stunt, but that's kind of it. Yoshi and Metroid were a no-show, that Star Fox Grand Prix rumor hasn't come to fruition yet, and Animal Crossing fans are up in arms about the lack of info on that front. Sure, Nintendo rolls out information throughout the year, and E3 isn't really as much of a big deal for them anymore, but this Direct could have given Switch owners a little more confidence that the system is going to have more than 2 or 3 big games, plus a handful of ports, in any given year. Next at number 3, DLC is only getting more important. This one might not come as a surprise if you've been watching the rise of downloadable content this decade, but DLC was more crucial than ever to conferences this year. Just look at Ubisoft, who dedicated significant stage time to add-ons. I mean, hell, they even staged an elaborate musical number for the Donkey Kong Rabbids DLC. Studios have been doing a lot of experimentation as they try to figure out how to squeeze more money from one game. Loot boxes kind of looked like the future business model, but no loot boxes became something of a mantra this year, even to EA, who caused the whole downfall of loot boxes in the first place. So now it looks like we're back to square one, as companies like Bethesda are doubling down on downloads. But speaking of financial trends, number 4, subscription services are inevitable. This year, EA put a ton of emphasis on their Origin platform, focusing on their new vision for game streaming subscriptions, and they're not the only ones. Microsoft also spent time selling audiences on the Microsoft Game Pass, sweetening the pot as much as they could for consumers. And right before E3, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot noted that they believe the future is streaming. The seeds have now been planted. Companies have been testing this out with their loyal players for a hot minute now, and this year, they were fully pushed to the mainstream on the grandest stage. Just like we saw with DLC, this seems to be the direction that studios are slowly latching onto to make games even more lucrative than they already are. Is it good? Is it bad? The future will tell. And speaking of the future, there was one more small undercurrent this year that we can't miss. And that's number 5, the next gen is coming. Shortly before E3, we heard rumors that the next PlayStation might be 3 years away, but that kind of seemed like speculation more than anything. But this year we got our first real mention of the next generation of consoles peppered throughout the conferences. Microsoft mentioned that they were working on a new device, rumored to be codenamed the Scarlet, and Bethesda showed us a brief glimpse at Starfield, their next-gen game. Now that last bit is interesting because it would seem that new consoles are even closer than we expected if games are already in development. Of course, Sony and Microsoft both fully committed to their current systems this year's, but these teasers are an exciting setup for next year's E3, which could bring us our first PS5 tech demos or more. And those are just a few of the big headlines from E3 2018. What else did you notice? What was your favorite conference this year? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to give us a like and subscribe while you're here. Thanks everyone, and happy E3.